Stop doing this if you're renting or just want to buy a house. Stop making these two mistakes. Do this instead. Let me show you how. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Rinde from AskRinde. Welcome. Please subscribe to the #1 community for real estate, income, grants, and credit. So if you need to move, or you're paying high rents, or just want to buy a house, this is for you. There's no mistaking it that the housing market is very bad for many right now. Treasury bond yields, which sat at 3% earlier this year, have shot up to over 5%. Now, these long-term debt instruments actually determine the mortgage interest rate. So currently, 30-year fix is at 8.44% and FHA is at 7.925%. So I recently saw a property I was looking at, a 5-bedroom, 3-bath property. Beautiful property on a quarter of an acre in a cul-de-sac in a gated community. A nice house that we're looking for investment. That same property at 3.5% or 4% interest rates is actually more than $4,000 on a monthly basis, more at the current interest rates. So this is actually what's causing a lot of the rift in the housing market. Not only the interest rates, but properties that are actually still sitting high. And that's the big issue with real estate currently, affordability. Affordability is at an all-time low. Most people are struggling. They can't afford the high rents, the high car payments, the high food costs. They can't afford to keep up, and they definitely can't afford to buy a house at an 8.44% interest rate. So this is actually causing a big problem because the cost to actually borrow money is now double in many cases, and money is more expensive to get to purchase a home. And the bigger problem is that no one knows when this is going to end. So I recently saw a forecast, an indicator from Fannie Mae, the Mortgage Bankers Association, as well as Goldman Sachs, as to what the quarters will look like in 2024 from Q1 to Q4. And they're all indicating that they're expecting for interest rates to actually decrease slightly. So that means that this is actually going to be going on for a long time. However, combining the wars in Ukraine, Israel, and actually all the things that are happening in the unrest around the world, there's no telling as to what's going to happen with interest rates. It could actually go down to 6.8% like Goldman Sachs is predicting, or it actually could either rise in some cases. Some people are actually predicting that the interest rate may tick up. So we don't know. We're actually at an inflection point. We don't know exactly which way it's going to go. Some are expecting it to actually stay put. Some are expecting to actually lower slightly. From Fannie Mae to Goldman Sachs, they're expecting interest rates to go between 7.1% and 7.3% in Q1, and then in Q4 from 6.7% to 6.8%. So this is actually what they're forecasting, but no one knows what's going to happen. So both sellers and buyers are being greatly affected by this market. For buyers, they can't afford the high interest rates and the payments that come along with that, because it's not just their mortgage payment. They actually have to pay other expenses, such as utilities, such as water, and all the other things that come with home ownership. It's too expensive. So many buyers are actually sitting on the sideline and they're just dealing with renting where they are and staying put. Now for sellers, many sellers are still riding the wave of these high asking prices we've seen over the last 2 years, but that may be changing, and that's changing in various markets all around the country. So with the Airbnb bust, where we're seeing a shift in short-term rentals, and we're seeing not only municipalities clamping down on Airbnb and that platform, but also restricting and enforcing rules such as high taxes and banning and restricting them from short-term stays and moving them along to long-term stays. So this may actually cause a problem where you're going to see more inventory come in the market because some of these Airbnb owners can't afford to actually keep on these properties or afford these properties because they bought them based on Airbnb. They bought them on getting a certain amount of money on a nightly rate and actually having those thresholds covered their mortgage and also get their profit out of the deal. However, things are changing. They're not going to be able to sustain those properties just with short-term rentals or what they were actually receiving from Airbnb. They're going to actually either have to rent them out long-term, in which cases they're actually not priced in order to afford their mortgage and keep up the property or maintain the property, or we're going to see a lot of short sales on the market. So we're looking to actually see where the market is going to go. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with the interest rates. Even though forecasts are saying that it's going to go down slightly, we don't know. There's no surety. And also, we don't know where prices are going to go. Some markets may stay put. Some markets may actually plunge, depending on where you are in the country. Some markets may rise. It all depends. So the two mistakes you don't want to make in this market is, number one, stop making regular offers on properties. Stop doing it. It's actually hurting you. This is actually an opportunity for you to actually go at a property in an unconventional way. go out a property where you can actually purchase the property and move forward with a property without actually having to put in a regular offer. So most realtors or most agents, depending on their ethics and depending on whether or not they actually have your best interest, are going to basically advise you on market environments such as these. Now, I've been in the business now since 2002. I've gone through market down cycles. I've actually gone through where everything stopped, just like this, where everything stopped and things froze. And I've been able to navigate those seasons in real estate. And I can share with you that there's a time to purchase real estate where you actually will put in a regular offer. And there's a time where you actually need to actually purchase real estate on terms. And this actually is a season where this is the time where you actually purchase real estate on terms. So instead of going along with your regular agent, so I'm a real estate agent here in New Jersey, and I've learned how to navigate the market. I know when to actually advise my clients when to purchase and what offer price to go in based on what's going to be in their best interest. I don't want to put someone into a property that they're going to be in that property that they can't afford, that they will lose the property to foreclosure 6 months down the line, 7 months down the line, or 8 months down the line. I want to position them to win from the beginning and actually have a long-term asset that they can actually choose when they actually want to sell the property or rent the property and be at actually a win-win situation. And in order to do that, we don't put in regular offers on properties. The second mistake many are making is by taking advice from mortgage brokers that are stating that they can actually go into the property currently at the current interest rate of 8.4%, 8.25%, and they can always refinance later on. The problem is that the refinancing is going to be on you. There are many factors that affect refinancing. It's not as simple and easy as what people tell you, and you need to be aware of this. Don't make the mistake of actually buying a property that's too expensive monthly and have the regret of trying to actually navigate holding on and the stress of working just to keep and maintain that property when you could have actually avoided it. So refinancing involves several factors, including the appraisal value, the original loan amount of when you bought the property, specifically if you actually have bought the property with PMI, meaning that if you're putting down less than 20% on the property, most likely you will have private mortgage insurance. So this actually is a big deal because it actually involves more money on your monthly mortgage payment. The monthly mortgage payment is broken down into 4 parts: principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Now the PMI is actually an additional charge on there because you didn't put as much money down. So this is actually a big factor. If you actually go to refinance or you're looking to try to see how you can actually get PMI dropped off of your property, they're going to actually look at the original loan amount and what percentage that has been bought down. The other thing that you need to be aware of is that when you actually go to refinance, they're going to look at seasoning, meaning how long have you actually owned the property. So some mortgage people will tell you you can actually refinance after 6 months and 1 day. And that's something that they may have as criteria. However, the guarantee that you would actually be able to refinance will depend on all these factors that I'm sharing, such as whether or not the property is actually appraised to a specific amount that will actually clear the bank. Would they want to see the property at a specific appraised value versus what debt you have against it in order to determine what you can do as far as a refinance? In addition to that, they actually will look at the interest rate. So if you're at currently 8.44%, you're purchasing the property at 8.44%, and you go to refinance, and the interest rate at that time is 9%, does it make sense for you to even attempt to refinance because you're going to be refinancing yourself into a higher interest rate? So the interest rate actual and the fluctuation in markets, it actually determines whether or not you will be even able to refinance. This is something that you're going to have to deal with. Everyone can tell you to go into a property now. They're going to get their commissions. They're going to get their points. However, you're going to be stuck holding the bag at a property that you cannot afford. So you want to make sure that you avoid this mistake. The other big factor when it comes to refinancing is that they're going to look at your payment history. So just like if you were going through a forbearance or a reinstatement, they're going to look at your payment history. How long have you been current? Consistently. So you actually have gone 12 months consistently, 18 months consistently. All lenders actually, they may have different thresholds that they look at. Some will actually want 12 months consistent on-time payments. Others may want a little bit more. And sometimes they actually make that a condition of whether or not they will actually offer you to refinance based on your payment history. So avoiding these 2 mistakes is very key. So the best way to buy a home this year or next year or in any market, regardless of the interest rate, regardless of the home pricing, regardless of what's currently going on in the market, is to rent to own. So rent to own is something I've been talking about for years, and I've been doing this for years. I've been buying real estate via rent to own for years. Most of the properties that I own today in our portfolio, we've actually bought via rent to own. I started doing this years ago. I bought my first property rent to own in 2004. And the best real estate we own today, we bought via rent to own. So rent to own is the bridge in real estate. It's the way you actually get from one side of the shore to the next side. especially in markets like this where you don't know what's going on with the interest rate. You don't know what's going on with the real estate market in general as far as their asking prices. Should you buy a $500,000 house, or should you try to negotiate them to $400,000? You don't know where it is. The sellers don't know how to price their homes. The realtors don't know how to price the properties, and the mortgage rates are causing you to actually stay sidelined, but you really need to move. You're renting somewhere, there's danger, or it's too high, and you're paying a lot of money for rent, whereas you can actually be purchasing. However, you're in this standstill. You're struggling to try to understand all of it, and you're just struggling while you're actually spending money every month on a high rent payment. So how do you actually get from one shore? How do you get from where you are currently to actually being in that home and actually experiencing the joys of homeownership without actually having to hold an 8.44% interest rate? You rent to own. Rent to own beats high interest rates, high prices, and high markets. And it solves the biggest problem that everyone has. No one knows when the market will change. No one can tell. So this is actually a big factor, and rent to own navigates all of that, and it actually bridges you across. It's actually the pathway to take you across and navigate you through all these waters that we're currently dealing with in the real estate market. And with the Airbnb bust, bank foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, REOs, and more short sales coming on the market, there's going to be ample opportunity for you to actually buy your new home, for you to actually move from renting to buying. But you need to know how to navigate this. You need to know how to start the process and how to actually get into your property now or later. You need to know how you can actually buy these properties and what type of properties you can actually buy via rent to own. So there are many different types of properties that you can actually buy rent to own. These are properties from mansions to regular single family properties to multifamilies to commercial properties to land. The list goes on. We've done it all, and we buy all types of properties via rent to own. So how do you start this process? How do you find these rent to own homes? And how do you start to actually engage in going through the process of going from being a renter to a purchaser? So the first thing I want to share with you is that the best homes to go after currently are going to be vacant, absentee owner homes. So these are actual homes where they're vacant. They're sitting there, they're well maintained, or they're being maintained. However, the owner actually lives either in another state or actually lives within the state but is not currently living in the property. So this is actually a great place to start because these properties actually tend to have less emotional attachment to the owner. The owner is actually still maintaining the property. However, the property becomes a burden to them. So this is actually where they have carrying costs. They're paying the mortgage on the property. They're keeping it current from going to foreclosure. They actually have the utilities turned on because they probably have the property on the market and they're showing it. So in order for them to show it, they've got to keep the lights on. They've got to keep the water on. They got to keep the pool running. All these things are added expenses. So regardless of how much money they're making, regardless of wherever they are, number one, they're not there. There's no emotional attachment. And number two, it's costing them dearly on a monthly basis. Those people actually are really apropos and they're really key to look at and start with in order to target for rent to own. And this is actually how we have actually started years ago doing this. And we've been able to buy our best real estate via rent to own. So where do you find these properties where you can rent a home now and beat the high interest rate and stop paying high rents for a property you don't own? Well, I'd like to invite you to join our rent to own masterclass. So our Rent to Own Masterclass has been a game changer for many families and people from all around the country. This is a masterclass that we've actually launched several years ago, and it's been a game changer where we show you how to find rent to own homes. We show you how to start the process from A to Z, where to find the rent to own homes in your area, how to find these properties that are dream homes in some cases, have a backyard, have a driveway, have a great school system, have a quiet and nice neighborhood. How do you find these properties and get yourself from where you are currently renting or wanting to buy a home and go to a better area into these properties? That's what we teach you in our Rent to Own Masterclass. We show you how to use the contracts that we provide. We also include a rent to own calculator where you can actually run the numbers through the calculator and actually see if it makes sense. We take you through the three-part process of rent to own, from how to start and how to actually finish the rent to own. We also position you so you can actually get grants to buy your home. So it actually is going to be a great value to you because not only are you getting the process of how to actually get the home now, but also when it's time for you to purchase later on at a hopefully better interest rate years down the line, you're positioned so you actually will know how to get grants and down payment assistance to make the home even more affordable. We show you all the different types of properties that you can actually rent to own. If you're looking for rent to own for your own personal residence, or if you want to do rent to own as a business, this is actually one of the best businesses that you can actually start, specifically looking at the market because more people are going to need to rent. More people are going to need to actually stay sidelined because of the interest rate and because of all the fluctuation and the uncertainty in the market. However, they're being choked because the rent is so high. So why not rent to own? Why not put yourself in a place where you're actually going to be renting a home with the option to purchase it later on? And this is what we teach you in our rent to own masterclass. So if you'd like to stop paying high rents and stressing every month, pouring out your money for a property you don't own, and stressing of how you're going to move your family from where you are to actually a home where you can actually create a life, create memories in, make sure you actually go to my website at AskRinde.com, click on rent to own, and get started today. We also have a free rent to own guide that I'd like to send you, where it actually gives you a glimpse into how to start the process of getting your rent to own home and starting that process now. Again, rent to own is something that it does not depend on the market. This is something that we've been doing for years, and this is something that's timeless. So regardless of market conditions, you can actually rent to own your home right now. And it's actually at the best time for you to actually do this. So if you'd like to get our free rent to own guide, make sure you actually go to my website at AskRinde.com, click on rent to own, and get started today. And if you'd like to learn more about rent to own and how the process works, make sure you get our free rent to own guide. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. You can also email me anytime. My email address is AskRindenetwork@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.